Good evening. The Dolores Broadcasting Network presents the DCTV 4-ish evening news show program for April 10th of 2019. Camera person today is Daniel Fernandez. Video and sound engineer and producer is Edward. Teleprompter and prompter is Devin Harrison. News anchor for today is Austin Green. And Daniel Sweaty Shirt Faulkner. Our meteorologist is Hannah Faulkner. And this is your news director, Jonathan. And now for the news.
Welcome to the DCTV 4-H Kids Evening News Show. Help us keep our news show on air by becoming a sponsor. You can buy a sponsorship by calling 970-677-4119. That's 970-677-4119. Now for the news. Hi, I'm Austin, and our first story is from the Durango Herald. Net neutrality. Colorado legislature acts to do what with the federal government? Forgot. There was a Depression era we saw once in a photograph of a gas station. It said, "Free air, it's your country, don't let the big boys take it away from you." We admired the simplicity with its dash of Woody Guthrie. We feel the same way about net neutrality. Does the internet belong to the service providers? Net neutrality is a simple concept, even if the Federal Communications Commission cannot get its hands around it. It means that ISPs, the service providers, such as CenturyLink, Charter, and AT&T, cannot discriminate or charge differently based on the user, content, or provider. They can't throttle your speed because you or the content provider did not pay them a little something extra. In lieu of the FCC seeing it that way, the state legislature and its Democratic majority stepped in the underdog to save the day. Senate Bill 19-078, Open Internet Customer Protections in Colorado, passed both houses on the party line votes and will be signed into law by Governor Jared Polis. Can Colorado really regulate the internet? Yes and no. The bill disqualifies an internet service provider from receiving money through a grant from the Billboard Deployment Board or through any state fund established to help finance broadband deployment. If it engages in non-neutral practices that can hurt consumers and enrich providers, the state is cinching its purse strings as much as asserting its authority. A lot of the bills we saw getting in trouble in the other states or bills that were facing a lot of opposition were more about sending a message of net neutrality instead of looking for a fulcrum point for state action. Senator Kerry Donovan, a Democrat from Vail, and the bill's sponsor told the Colorado Sun, "This bill says that if you're going to ask to be funded by the people in Colorado directly out of their paycheck, then you need to adhere to these principles." Industry representatives said the bill would create an unavoidable patchwork of state-by-state regulation, which is about what you would expect as states are forced to do work of the FCC and the Federal Trade Commission. They are saying it would be easier if they could do what they wanted, where they wanted, when they wanted. Well, yes. It was opposed by the Colorado Communicative Council, whose director, Nicholas J. Colglazer, told the Sun the bill would confuse the regulatory certainty that exists in Colorado today. The Colorado Competitive Council was formed as an affiliate of the Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce. Its website lists its investors, which include AT&T, CenturyLink, and Comcast Cable Communications. Lest we leave you with the impression that there are always wise stewards of policy in the State House in the House debate on the net neutrality bill last week. An amendment was introduced to accept ISPs from net neutrality if they filter out sexually explicit or graphic violent content. It failed on a tied vote 32-32. Half the members of State House voted to censor the internet. These are adults who have been to school and have some familiar with civics, history, and the Bill of Rights. Yet they assume Colorado could arrogate and grant the majestic power on their say-so. And just when they were doing so, looking out for the little guy, sometimes we forget ourselves. Legislative session ends May 9th. We implore senators and representatives to use their power only good for the next 30 days. This story is from the Durango Herald. Now with Daniel.
Historic train breaks down north of city. Nearly 100 passengers were on a trip to Cascade, a historic locomotive on loan with the Durango and Silverton Narrow Gauge Railroad broke down Tuesday morning north of Durango, leaving nearly 100 passengers stranded. Christian Robbins, spokesman for the DNSNG, said as of 2 p.m. the train remains stranded with passengers on board near Shalona Bridge. He said crews were working to fix the locomotive and may require a tow from another engine to bring it back to town. The locomotive is not one from the DNSNG fleet. Instead, it is the Southern Pacific 460 number 18, more commonly known as the SP-18, a train revered by railroad aficionados, Robin said. To have it out here, there's something special about that. He said it appeared the locomotive blew a cylinder Tuesday morning on the way to Cascade Station. The SP-18 is a 1911 Baldwin that was used by the Southern Pacific in California until about 1960, according to Trains.com. Robbins said the locomotive arrived in Durango this winter. The reasons the NSNG brought in the train are twofold. For one, many people over the years have requested the NSNG bring the locomotive to Durango, and two, it will allow railroad crews to practice with oil-fired or steam power. The DNSNG is converting one of its coal-fired locomotives to run on oil to be used in times of high wildfire danger. Robbins said the SP-18 will likely be in Durango through the summer. This story is from the Journal with Austin.
April 15th is coming. Are you a procrastinator? Okay, folks, it's the final week before tax filing deadline. One of the best weeks of the year for you to determine if you are a procrastinator. If you haven't yet filled out your income taxes with the Internal Revenue Service by now, the Monday, April 15th deadline approaches. There's probably a more than decent chance that you should put yourself into the procrastinator category. Ruby Hernandez of Cortez is puzzled and a little on edge because she still hasn't received her refund. I filed at the beginning of February, but I'm still waiting for my refund, she said. I got a notice from the Internal Revenue Service that said they are going to check my earned income credit and my business income. But I don't have a business, so I don't know what they are talking about. The IRS told Hernandez her refund would be coming in 60 days. I still haven't gotten it yet, so I don't know what's going on, she said. Marion Roman of Cortez admits she has yet to file, but I plan to get them done today, Tuesday, April 9th. She added, that's why I've set aside for the day. I've handed in my papers to my accountant. She doesn't think her tour will be too onerous. My taxes have gotten simpler now. They didn't used to be. When you retire, some things get easier, she said. According to H&R Block, here are the top 6 reasons why people choose to file with them. Number 1, they file early to try to get a refund as soon as possible. While consumers will get the same size refund whenever they file, getting a refund earlier is especially important if the tax filer depends on a refund to pay bills or other essentials. Reason 2, they file early to prevent tax identity theft. The IRS typically operates on a first-come, first-served basis. So once someone files using a taxpayer's social security number or tax identification number, subsequent attempts to file with that number will be automatically declined, setting off a months-long process for a taxpayer to reclaim his or her tax identity, file a return, and receive a refund. Number 3, they file later because they're waiting for documents. Not all late-season filers are procrastinators. While most information documents should arrive by the end of January, like an employee's W-2 reporting wages for a 1099 INT reporting bank interest, some information documents won't arrive until March. Reason 4, they file later because their taxes are more complex. People with the most complex tax returns are more than likely to seek an extension. Reason 5, they file later because they're less likely to get a refund. Not only does the size of an individual refunds decrease as the filing season progresses, but refunds themselves become less common. 81% of early filers got a refund, while 67% of the April filers got a refund. Number 6, they file later because they think they have to pay when they file. Many people believe they must pay any taxes they owe when they file their return. So if they think they have a balance due, they wait until the last minute to file. This story is from the Journal. Now with Daniel.
Lower the lowest boatable even without reservoir release. Spring runoff from above average snowpack has created impressive boatable flows on the Dolores River below McPhee Reservoir. Even without a release from the dam, gauges show the lower Dolores River running at 1,190 cubic feet per second at Slick Rock and at 831 CFS at Bedrock as of April 9th. The 28-mile Slick Rock Canyon section is coveted by boaters for its whitewater rapids and scenic qualities, but it is usually too low to boat unless there is a dam release. No permit is required. Boater Cody Perry, a rig to flip films, ran the section with friends over the weekend in alpaca pack rafts made in Mancos. We have been closely monitoring the river gauges and saw a opportunity, he said. The rewards were great. It is a beautiful canyon. The flows were muddy with sediment, but they saw no hazards. Campsites were accessible, and they saw one other boating party. You could take a raft, but be prepared for changing flow conditions. It is really dynamic right now, Perry said. Disappointment Creek, a tributary of the Dolores, is full with runoff and is main source for the boatable flows in Slick Rock Canyon, Perry said. Other feeder creeks, including La Salle Creek, are also contributing to increased flows. It is not clear whether sections upstream from Slick Rock Canyon, such as Snaggletooth Rapid and Ponderosa Gorge, have boatable flows because the sections have no river gauges. The river gauge at McPhee Dam is reading 40 CFS. Colder weather is expected to slow the runoff and temporarily reduce river flows. Meanwhile, the Dolores River above McPhee Reservoir is also rising. Flows in the town of Dolores were 600 CFS as of Tuesday, and paddleboarders and kayakers have been taking advantage. Montezuma County Sheriff Steve Nalwin said his plans to do a flyover of the river from Dolores to Rico this month to look for hazards so they can be cleared before the boating season begins. The helicopter flight is made possible by the San Juan County, New Mexico Sheriff's Department. With the Dolores Basin snowpack at 130% of normal, McPhee Reservoir is expected to fill, and managers report there is a 50% chance there will be excess for a 1 to 3 week boating release from McPhee Dam in May. A meeting is scheduled for 7 p.m. April 18th at Dolores Community Center about the possibility. Also, Dolores River boating advocates are sponsoring guided boating trips for youths on April 27th and May 18th. Registration has begun through the Cortez Recreation Center. Now for Dumb Laws with Hannah.
Our Dumb Laws segment are actual laws still in the books in many cities, states, and municipalities. This means that laws are still technically legal. Dumb laws in Utah. In Kaysville, you must have identification to enter a convenience store after dark. In Logan, women may not swear. In Monroe, daylight must be visible between partners on a dance floor. In Ogden, only animal service officials and policemen may molest animals. Persons are only allowed to keep one cow on their property. In Provo, throwing snowballs will result in a $50 fine. Now for the weather report. Our current weather data comes from the DCTV weather station located in the beautiful downtown Dove Creek. And the current temperature is 37 degrees. The high for today was 55 degrees. The low was 31 degrees. The bulbometer is at 29.3 to 46 inches and is falling. Humidity is at 75%. Wind is between 1 and 16 miles per hour from the northwest. Gusts have been up to 37 miles per hour. There was 200 of an inch of moisture today in the DCTV weather station. Moisture for the month is 600 of an inch. Moisture accumulation for the year is 5.44 hundredths of an inch. Now for the big map, courtesy of the National Weather Service. Rain and snow from the northwestern part of the country is great to the Great Lakes. Heavy snow is possible for Oregon, also in the northern Rockies and Great Plains. Rain and thunderstorms from Oklahoma and Kansas to Ohio. Freezing rain possible from Nebraska to Wyoming. Severe thunderstorms possible in Kansas and Nebraska. On the East Coast, we have rain and snow in the northeast part of America. We also have rain and thunderstorms from South Carolina to Florida. Here's our exclusive DCTV 5-day forecast. Thursday, mostly cloudy, high 42, low 25. Friday, mostly cloudy, high 45, low 29. Saturday, mostly sunny, high 50, low 31. Sunday, partly sunny, high 58, low 38. Monday, mostly cloudy, high 60, low 40. Now for the snow total report, which is the amount of snowpack in the mountains across the state, we hope it would be helpful for our farmers and our skiers statewide. The snowpack is 115% of normal. Here in the Southwest, we only have 152% of normal. Now for the climate change report, CO2 carbon dioxide is considered a greenhouse gas and is one of the causes of climate change. CO2 traps heat in the atmosphere, which causes climate instability. This results in significant variations worldwide in moisture and hot and cool temperatures, but the general climate trend of the planet is slowly warming. Therefore, it is important that we report the CO2 weekly change. The following are the CO2 numbers in parts per million. Last week, 412.21. 2 weeks ago, 411.32. Last year, 409.15. 10 years ago, 389.13. 50 years ago, 326.66. Thank you to Dr. Peter Tan of the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration and Michael McGee of the CO2.Earth Network for providing this information. Remember, you can help keep our kids' news show on air by buying a sponsorship. To become a sponsor, just call 970-677-4119. That's 970-677-4119. Thank you. Now back to our news director.
That's the end of today's DCTV 4-H news program. This is your news director, Jonathan. Good night, and thank you for watching.